There once was a man named Gold Roger who was king of the pirates. He had fame, power, and wealth beyond your wildest dreams. Before they hung him from the gallows, these were the final words he said.
Our perspective is yours for the taking, but you'll have to join us first. We left everything we debated at the Yonko table.
Ever since, pirates from all over the world set sail for the Grand Line, searching for the Yonko table, the table that will make their dreams come true.
Yo, folks. Welcome to the latest and the greatest from the Yonko table. I am your host, Grandmaster Hoop, and we're coming to you from Philadelphia, West Philadelphia. We are coming from the desk of class, I don't know the classroom number, but we're coming to you from Janine's classroom. We're talking about Abbot Elementary. Yes, the hit mockumentary series that is taking the TV. It's blowing up, folks. It's good. It's Abbot Elementary. And we're in season 2. It's been around, and there's a lot of good things to talk about when it comes to Abbot Elementary and what makes it so good, and kind of the history behind it, the development, and what we enjoy. And I say we because I am not alone. There are some supernovas joining me tonight to talk Abbott Elementary, and let's hear who's going to be joining us tonight. All right, let's get into it. It's Abbott Elementary. It's on ABC Tuesday nights. That's prime time for comedies. What is Abbott Elementary? I'll just give a brief synopsis for the viewers listening. It's a mockumentary style comedy following the everyday lives of the teachers and staff of Abbott Elementary as they hope to be the best at their jobs while maintaining sanity amidst the chaos of a broken school system, work relationships, and the community of Philadelphia. Feel on paper right there, that sounds pretty basic. I feel Abbott Elementary has been everything but basic, and that's why we're here discussing it. What drew us to Abbott Elementary? I want to hear from y'all, the supernovas. Did you catch the wave early on? What entices you to keep going with Abbott Elementary? What's your draw in here?
I would really say that I think I caught it early on. I don't remember why I caught on to it. I don't know what about it was appealing, like at first glance, but I remember when I saw Quinta Brunson attached to it, and that it would be taking us inside like a school. I think I was really sold on the first episode. There was a lot of hype, and I was like, I might as well just watch the first episode and see what it's about. And I just kind of fell in love with what the message that the story was trying to tell and what it was trying to do with its time on TV.
I would agree. I think that pilot episode was really strong for a pilot. I think it nailed what it needed to do, what it's about, as far as it's a school. It's a mockumentary, and yeah, I think Quinta herself, and we'll be getting into more about Quinta. She captivating as far as, just a funny lead. Yeah, it's just they did a really good job in that pilot. It gave you everything you needed for a pilot to continue on with this series. So I applaud them for that. And how I know you've been a big proponent. I know you keep asking me an actual teacher's perspective about Abbott. What do you enjoy? What's going on?
I think you're hitting on the spot. The aspect of like being able to watch it and then contact a friend who's a teacher and be like, yo, is this like a thing? And then hearing like, well, actually kinda. But yeah, I just feel like there's a level of depth of like realism of like, I don't know. I like looking on Twitter, right? And whenever an episode comes up and you look at Abbott Elementary, like people like talk about it, and it's just funny having people like be like, ooh, that's like real, or and yeah, I think like you said, the pilot episode was really funny. I think just the cast like together is really great. I think they're all like in some way symbolic of like, I think a lot of people have like people like that, like the characters in the show that we can think about. Like, again, I think of Jacob, right? Jacob is a character. I'm like, who is that one white friend that just like was really big about Teach for America, or like, sorry, like Doctors Without Borders, or like Peace Corps, or something like that. That's like also with it, but also like kind of problematic, or like has their things, and then having like the old mentor figure, and then again like the happy-go-lucky person, and obviously like you have Gregory, who's like the realist guy. Like I don't know, I just I think it was a breath of fresh air compared to I think a lot of other I don't know. I've never watched The Office. I love Parks and Rec, and
Okay.
so I think it was really interesting, kind of like comparison to those, and yeah, yeah.
No, I think that's a good point. And when you say realism, I watch Abbott as from like a teacher's perspective, and I do feel a lot of it is very real. Of course, is some of it exaggerated? No doubt. Like I remember Barbara, Cheryl Lee Roth's character, went on break at a nail salon during the school day. I was like, absolutely not. There's no way. There's no way. But like the message that she was having with the parent that she was trying to teach Gregory about, reach out to the parents, show that that you care about the students. It was real. That part was real. And I think too, when you bring up other mockumentary style comedies, I'm a big fan of The Office. I'm a huge Office fan. But The Office at certain points loses kind of that realism. It definitely has it early on. But as you go throughout the series, it definitely loses that sense of, oh, now they're just making this for the comedy hour. You mentioned Parks and Rec too. I also very enjoy Parks and Rec. Also, I feel loses a lot of realism, mainly with the characters, not necessarily the situations that they're in, but mainly the characters are very exaggerated. I feel with Abbott, I also like to just point out this too. Those two aforementioned shows that we just mentioned, Office and Parks and Rec, and the only other mockumentary I think worth mentioning in this category is probably Modern Family. I was definitely drawn to the fact that Abbott is a black cast, a predominantly black cast.
Yeah.
I love seeing that. That was great. It's black creator, you got Cheryl Lee, that's everybody's auntie. That's Dee from Moesha. That's the original Dream Girls. Who doesn't like seeing her? This cast is great, and it's very, even as you mentioned Jacob. You got Lisa Ann Walter, Jacob Chris Perfetti. Do you know Lisa Ann Walter? You remember her from Parent Trap?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
love seeing her. And then freaking Tyler James Williams. I feel he hasn't been. I mean, he's been working. He's had steady work. The last time I saw him before Abbott, he got eaten by zombies on The Walking Dead. Spoiler for that show. I love seeing him here. I love seeing grown up everybody hates Chris, because we all stand Gregory. So I think it's a great cast. Oh gosh, we got to mention Janelle James as Ava. I think the sleeper character.
No, yeah, she definitely. I wouldn't say she's the sleeper character. I would say that she's like the breakout character.
The breakout character. That's a better way.
The sleeper character is definitely the janitor. He has some funny lines.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, Mr. Johnson. Oh my god. But I feel like she's probably the breakout character. I know she's done a bunch of stand-up, but I think this is like her first, like maybe I'm wrong, but this is like her first really big role. And I feel like this is probably gonna make her a household name.
I feel as when you said breakout, that's the best way to describe it. But I think as far as if you don't know her other work, I feel now she's in a very mainstream media, and now she's definitely going to get that attention. I mean, Quinta, I can't remember. I think I watched Abbott before. Have you ever watched on HBO the Black Lady sketch show? Have any of y'all seen that?
I have. I've seen it briefly, and I think that there was actually a sketch with Tyler. Wasn't there a sketch
Yeah.
with?
Yeah, he's been in a couple. He's been in a couple. Yeah.
So there is definitely some humor there. I remember they were playing like love interest. I forget if it was based on like Romeo and Juliet or like a parody of it. Very funny, very weird to see them. To find that after seeing the show, because I'm like, yeah, it's just very funny.
No, I think I'm sure that's where they probably met, and then she's like, "Hey, I have this role. It'd be perfect for you." But that show right there really shows her comedy prowess. She's funny. She's not the lead on that show, but she has written, imagine, a number of sketches for that show. She was only in season 1 because then Abbott Elementary took off the following year. So then she had to drop the show, and I know she's appeared in season 3. But Quinta, she's been proving herself. She got her start on BuzzFeed and YouTube Red, and then Black Lady Sketch Show. Right, yeah, BuzzFeed.
No. Wasn't she on Vine too?
Oh, yes. So, okay, it went from Vine, and then they gave her these 2 projects based with BuzzFeed and YouTube Red, and they're all essentially mini series. But yeah, from there, I think that's when her name started getting into these comedy channels.
I have to correct myself. It was Instagram, not
Instagram.
Vine. But the
Do you know the name? Do you see the name?
No, I just turned her Instagram in 2014.
Okay.
So it was around the same time as when Vine was taking off, but there was probably a bunch of people who stole her content.
Well, yeah, I mean, they stole her content, but look who made it out big in the end. From there, she pitches this to, I believe, the execs at Warner Brothers, because I think Warner Brothers distributes and produces it, but it's ABC that whatever programs it. There's a lot of ifs and or but. However, this thing takes off. So the pilot, let me paint you a little history real quick. The pilot premieres in like December, I believe 2021, and it has good ratings. It draws in like 2.79 mil, right? Word of the mouth, and after 35 days, it jumps in ratings to 7.1 million viewership with a 300% increase. So word of the mouth moves this show along. Now everybody is on Abbott Elementary, and this thing is consistent. This thing is consistently bringing in the ratings. And what's really interesting too is that they did a little side-by-side comparison with Modern Family. Modern Family did similar numbers and got this season 2 renewal like right after like episode 4. Abbott Elementary doesn't get their season renewal until much later down the road. So it's very interesting because it pulled in equal, if not more, numbers than Modern Family. And then they don't get the season 2 renewal right off rip like Modern Family, which I just find that interesting. There's probably a deeper story behind that as far as why they're not giving the renewal right away to the show who's obviously doing numbers versus a show like Modern Family. Say again?
It's probably because of the pandemic. Like the pandemic kind of changed the landscape for television.
Okay.
And because there's, it's what do you call it? It's being released on ABC, but Warner Brothers Television and 20th Television is producing it. It was probably like who gets the rights to that? You know what I mean? So there was probably a bunch of discussions behind the scenes about like who gets to release it, and also I think I don't know who's behind this, but the Hulu's like day after release is not really done anymore. Maybe it is. I don't watch regular television on the main networks, but for at least for I know, it's not really done anymore. You have to wait till the season ends and then maybe you'll get it. on like a streaming site, but they've been very consistent with like the Hulu release the day after. So there was probably like a lot of talks about that specifically.
Well, I mean, you could think Hulu probably too. I mean, that's where I watch it. So I appreciate that model, but you're absolutely right as far as that season has to end for the whole season to be available on any streaming services. I know Disney, I guess, technically owns Hulu due to 20th Century Fox having the most shares in Hulu. That is why you can currently watch Abbott there. But with that said, the pandemic probably really helped garner the interest and the viewership in Abbott, because streaming services and streaming watching goes up significantly during the pandemic. Post-pandemic, everybody's on some streaming. This thing has had consistent viewership. Season 2 drops fall 2022. It is the ABC's highest rated comedy telecast in 3 years for the premiere. I'm just throwing out these numbers. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's big. That's like really big. It's doing so well, and I think that's worth noting. And then on top of that too, right off rip, shall we talk about the Emmys and their Emmy wins and their noms too? It's crazy. After their flagship season, so they get an Emmy nom for Best Comedy. Oh man, I wish I knew the numbers on how many flagship comedies get like nominated Best Comedy right after their first season. They get what?
Probably not a lot.
Probably not a lot. So it's a big deal, right? I would like to think this is a big deal. They get a Best Writing nomination for Quinta, and I think it was the pilot that gets nominated. They get Best Lead Actress with Quinta. They get Best Supporting Actor. Oh, these are all noms. These are all noms so far. Best Supporting Actor for Tyler James. And then they get 2 nominations for Best Supporting Actress for Cheryl Lee and Janelle James. And they walk away with Best Writing. So Quinta's now an Emmy holder for her writing. Like, as we just said, the pilot really drew us in. That pilot just won an Emmy. And then Cheryl Lee takes home Best Supporting Actress. And that is, did y'all see her acceptance?
I did.
Sometimes I rewatch that speech to get inspiration. In all honesty, I'm like,
it's really
chills.
inspiring.
It's really good. And
Yeah.
I didn't know that song existed until she sang it, and I was like, okay, that's a new song I'm just gonna listen to whenever I can. No, it's been amazing because and it's interesting in the context too, historicizing of like, she's been in the game for a long time, and I think that was her first like Emmy.
I want to say that's her first really big
award.
Yeah, I don't think she got a Tony for her original run.
Oh, I think people thought that was like, it was like stolen from her back in the day.
Oh, way back when? Which I'll believe that. I believe
right.
Yeah.
Because it was Dreamgirls, right?
It was Dreamgirls. Yeah, it was Dreamgirls.
Yeah, and
she did win an Independent Spirit Award for Best Supporting Female category in 1990 for To Sleep with Anger, famous Black comedy film. She won, and then she's been nominated like many times, sometimes for Moesha, sometimes for a film called Deterrence, and then of course Dreamgirls was the Tony and the Drama Desk Award.
You know what? I have it pulled up too. She lost to Jennifer Holliday, who did Effie for
Dreamgirls. Wow.
So if she were to lose to anybody, I guess.
Yeah, it was a tough year, especially that was a great cast. So
that is a great cast. So I guess I'll let I can't say that one was stolen then. That one, I guess I give
Fair.
her a pass.
Fair.
But she's been in the, as you said, she's been in the game forever. And I feel this reward, this Emmy that she wins is like this, it's huge. As far as like, you know, I guess people probably didn't think this would be what she would be winning for. A mockumentary style comedy where she plays a teacher on, you know, primetime cable television, you know? Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh yeah, okay, never mind. I got the awards right. Right. Apologies. So yeah, they take home best supporting for Cheryl, best writing. I think that was it. Oh no, wait, they won a third one. Oh boy. I gotta find it real quick. They won a third one. Oh, it must be a technical one because it's not listed here. Either okay, they walk away with 3. That's great. That's great. It's definitely worth mentioning. I've like The Office didn't take stuff home until like their second season, you know. And then Modern Family started sweeping all the years after. That's big stuff. I don't know.
Modern Family winning all those years must be rigged.
Well, it was either Modern Family or Big Bang Theory. Those were Jim Parsons took on so many lead actors.
Competition was not steep, I guess.
Yeah, probably. Either way, Abbott is, you know, I say all this. Abbott is making waves, and it's continuously making waves, and it just seems to work. It just seems to work. What makes it work? Well, let's kind of get into characters. Let's get into the plot. Yeah, let's get into it. I mean, no better way to start than Janine. How you feel about Janine? I like Quinta. I like Janine. Someone once pointed out to me that Janine very much is kind of that lead character that always the do-gooder, the
Leslie Knope.
A Leslie Knope, right? A Leslie Knope. Someone even said a Jessica Day from New Girl tries to fix everything.
Yeah, I don't like that one. Ugh.
Oh, you don't like New Girl? I like New Girl. But something about Quinta. There's like, well, Janine. I'm just talking about Janine. Quinta. Everybody in this show acts great. I don't have any issues with anybody's acting. But she's funny. She is funny. She is very much that teacher. I see it all the time, actually. I hope she doesn't get burnt out. She reminds me of the teacher that's gonna get burnt out, who puts her all into everything, picks ideas from others, and like, you know, wants to do that for her kids. I like Janine as a character. I guess the only things I don't like is how they make her such a loser at times.
There's a lot of cringe humor, I would say. Like there's some parts where I'm like, I need to just like look away from the screen for a little bit. But I'm very sensitive to comedy. And especially with Janine's character, sometimes she gets in over her head, and I understand that that's her character and that's what they're going for. Like she's the one who the show centers around primarily. And she's also the one that's going to go on the greatest journey. She has a lot to learn, basically. So.
Yes, and I like that for the audience's perspective, as far as this is who you're kind of in it with, and versus, you know, a character like Gregory who's a substitute. It's kind of a different angle approach. But you see, and I think Abbott does a good job. You know, I do compare it to The Office. The Office took a while before you really get to see the outside lives of The Office. You know, part of Janine's character is she's growing as a teacher and she's grown as a person. She was in a toxic relationship for the better half of her life because she was with that guy the rapper, who's also really funny. Tariq, thank you. Catwoman V. Catwoman V is here too. Gonna give some insight in a little bit. That's the only name I could think of on the spot while we're on air. So, yeah, you know, you watch her by the end of the season. She breaks up with the Tariq, and
yeah, but that was last season. We're talking about this season. Like,
oh no, I'm building. I'm talking about what we started off with. I mean, right though, we now see her, and we could talk. Season 1, season 2, combine it all. I'm just talking characters at this point. You see that aftermath of that breakup
at the beginning of this season. Something that I like about this season particularly is I feel last season, because it was so short, they could tackle something new every episode. Like things like, of course, there was a through line where the two through lines throughout last season was the romance between what do you call it?
Janine and Gregory.
Janine and Gregory, which is like still very a slow burn. And then there was also Ava being very unequipped for the job that she's in.
Yes.
And I feel like those two were the through lines for last season. However, I feel like because last season was so short, they tackled something new every episode, so it was very episodic. This season, it feels still very episodic, but there's a lot more like functioning plot threads for all the characters, and I feel like we see it not only with Janine and Gregory, like still slow burn this season.
Very slow.
At the beginning of the season, we see her kind of like, my summer was great. I broke up with Tariq and everything's fine, but you still see the after effects throughout the entire season. Like everything that's happened so far makes sense. Like with her reevaluating her friends or her outside of work friends, to people in the school appreciating her more. Like there's a bigger sense of like, oh, things are happening little by little, which I think is what television is supposed to evoke. It's supposed to evoke this sort of feeling of everyday life.
Yeah.
Which is why people gravitate towards it.
I would say I think they're doing a really good job with Janine's character. As you said, they introduced her one friend, who was like, hey, you should come to this party with me.
Erica.
Yeah, like you should come to this party with me. Do you ever like go out? Do you ever have fun since breaking up with Tariq? And then I think they really capitalized it very well on the finale, or the mid-season finale, with the whole, you're out and about, your work friends are here, but don't let that dictate, how you move and whatnot. You're here for a good time, And yeah, I think it is a very slow type of burn, her relationship with Gregory specifically. But I mean, I have to compare it to like The Office and with Jim and Pam. What I like about this one more is it feels more real to me. Because it is so slow. Not to say that there wasn't, but Gregory's a dude. And,
no way. No, Jim and Pam from The Office, they were like 3 episodes in already jumping on each other.
I wouldn't say that. It took them a dang near 3 seasons to finally get together. But what I see is Gregory actually being a human. He dates Barbara's daughter at one point. A lot of parents find him attractive, and then
Ava finds him attractive enough to consistently commit harassment.
Yeah, right. And again, some of it loses realism. Of the fact that Ava even has a job. She blackmailed the superintendent.
Yes. Yes. I feel like that plot line got like dropped in this season. I don't know if they're gonna pick it back up anytime soon, but yeah, that whole Ava needing something, or Ava that being qualified for a job is still prevalent in this season, but definitely
It's gonna come and bite her, I'm sure. But you know what I like too about this season with Ava, they're actually showing she is somewhat competent in certain areas.
Yes,
Um,
I actually love that. I love that Ava is extremely competent in certain ways. Like everyone is learning from each other. This is really talking about like it's really bringing forth the community aspect. How everyone has different, uh, how should I say? Everyone has a different role to play in the community. Even when they're a little problematic or they don't want to talk to people, they have a specific role in their community.
right.
Ava, even though she's extremely problematic, has a role because there was one point in the season when she was talking to Gregory about that little kid who was obsessed with Bluey,
Yes,
and
yes, that episode. Yes.
he just sent him to the principal's office, and she sent him like right back after like a couple minutes, like, oh, here you go, here's your axolotl, ha ha ha. And he was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to discipline him. And Abel was like, he was basically almost crying at the principal's office. I'm not gonna like ruin their day and you know discipline them so that they just feel bad about themselves. I want them to get back into a learning environment as fast as possible. So
It's a very good episode because that happens so often. I mean, but like it doesn't as far as I have never sent a child or student straight to the principal's office. That's not the protocol. There's a chain of command you got to work up. But at the end of it all is that's whenever you have to call for discipline, it is not supposed to, disparage or embarrass the child. It's supposed to give you a break and recollect your class. And then, yes, get the child back into the learning environment. Now, again, I've had my fair share of moments, and I'm sure Catwoman V has had his fair share of moments of when they do come back, it's either they come back for some goodness or it's just the same old, same old. But I like that Ava as a character, they let her take on that idea of, yes, it's about the children, and there are better ways. There's more than one way to skin a cat when it comes to disciplining a student. I thought it was very well done. I thought it was, and then when she made Gregory take the walk too, that was pretty funny as well.
and
Come on in here, buddy. This is Catwoman V. New Supernova join us. He, like myself, has had experience teaching, and I think he would very much like to speak upon kind of the things you like about Abbott, whether or not you find them realistic, or you just I imagine you like it just as a show as it is, right?
Yeah, so like Ethan said, I'm sorry, Grandmaster Hoop.
Thank you.
Like Grandmaster Hoop said, I am a former teacher up until earlier this year, and I started watching Abbott pretty much from the beginning. I think it had been on for like a couple episodes, and someone was like, "You really got to watch it. I think you'd enjoy." So then when I watched it, I was like, "Okay, yeah, this does seem pretty realistic." Of course, like you already said, some of it is dramatized, but that's TV. But the situations were definitely realistic. I remember going through some of those situations in my own classroom. I taught middle school, so the elementary aspect doesn't translate directly
as well in Abbott.
Oh yeah, that's true. But like I think the one episode that really got me hooked was when or the situation that got me hooked and told me, yeah, this is they're definitely consulting teachers on the writing, is the part where Janine was trying to get rugs or like a carpet for the classroom because there's a kid that takes a nap on the classroom rug every day. That really solidified it, because a lot of the times as a teacher you get exposed to the sometimes the less pleasant aspects of your students' lives. Like you get to see what they're dealing with at home, as much as they try to cover it up. Sometimes the parents are a little bit more forthcoming because they want you to understand about their child and like why they're behaving this way. Or sometimes you just accidentally come across it because the guidance counselor will say, hey, this person hasn't been in school for these past couple of days because of this reason, or this kid might have a certain smell because they haven't been able to shower at home or something like that. So the fact that a lot of the situations were realistic actually made me want to tune in more to the show. It is funny, I like the comedy, but the fact that it's just like they kept it so close to the different situations of what it means to be a teacher. I do like the growth that I saw with Gregory, like coming on as like, I'm just a sub and not really wanting to put effort into the classroom, and then transitioning, and you can see him learning the lessons of what it means to be a teacher, like putting the kids artwork up on the wall, making them feel like this is a room to come into, and like you're valued here, your teacher cares. The episode with Bluey I thought was a little ridiculous personally, simply because I don't like just sending kids to the principal's office. That wasn't even something we did in middle school, but I didn't like I personally didn't like the result that he came up with, or the solution. Like, I'm going to include Bluey in the lesson. I thought that was a bit cheesy, but whatever works to get your kids interested in the lesson, I guess, whatever. But I like his growth as a teacher. I like that he is like acknowledging what it takes to be a teacher. There's a lot more work and effort put into it. It's not just you show up every day and you just do the job. You actually have to think about how to make it work. And you have to think about what you mean to these kids, because you're not sometimes just their teacher. Janine's growth within the first season all the way into the end, like when they're at the field trip and she like turns around and yells at the kids and says, "Sit down," like developing your teacher voice. Amazing. That was just, I remember like when I had to develop my teacher voice for a field trip, and I was like, I see you. I see you. Yeah, we are one right now. So I think the show, I think the main thing that's really holding me to the show is how realistic it is as a teacher or a former teacher, watching and seeing the situations they're going through. The desking thing, talking about the social media. Yeah, that stuff is like, oh god, just thinking about like with the devious licks and things that used to go on with like the challenges, like the slap your teacher in the back of the head, all these different challenges.
My goodness.
I was like, I'm glad they're not doing something as like ridiculous as that, but the desking
is that was
a funny episode.
That is, Ange, I think you had hit me up about whether or not kids actually do that type of stuff, and I was like, yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like worse than desking. They'll be like, hey, I'm about to go steal my teacher's pens, like, and they go steal and then they go post it. It's wild. But to Catwoman V's point, the episodes that resonate with me the most are the ones that I can actually relate to, because they have happened to me. I really like the episode where Janine and Melissa said Janine's not that, made a joke about her not being that great of a teacher. And, Melissa is the seasoned veteran teacher as well as Barbara. And Janine, felt some type of way. And then it was about Janine now has to prove herself with this one student. And it was that student who was super smart. And it turned out that she was not being challenged enough and needed to go up the other grade level. I love that episode because I have seen that in the classroom so often. The whole, they're not being challenged enough. They're clearly above grade level. What are we going to do about it type of situation? Sometimes it's unfortunate. Sometimes they don't do anything about it. But it's such a, that's, they must, I'm trying to apply to work for Abbott Elementary, like the writers and the writing staff, and be like, this is real. I got you. I got stories for days.
Absolutely.
Yes. But yeah, it's such a good, it's good. How y'all feel about Jacob as a character? I think Jacob is a fun character.
When you talk about like cringe and stuff like that, like it was so good and so cringe. This whole Story Samurai episode that happened this last season. When we say this idea of like having this like not look, like I'm actually fine with everything, but that episode was like so perfectly like cringe that like I don't know how to describe it. I just have not felt that uncomfortable watching something, but was like couldn't help but continue watching it type of thing in a while.
Well, it's next level cringe when the characters themselves are trying to tell him how cringeworthy it is and that you shouldn't be doing it. But I think he's a really funny character. He did it because, again, it's about, you don't know what you mean to these kids. So when he stepped up to do the samurai bit, the kids see him, just be himself and have fun. Mr. C, right.
Oh my god, and his boyfriend too. And when it's black and it's pronounced Zach.
So I went back and rewatched that episode just for that part. But then that's the desking episode, and as like I was just like, dang. After Ava said that, I was like, wow, yeah, she's probably my favorite character for sure.
Oh, I mean, again, the writing is like really next level because that joke, right? I see that joke circulate. Right.
Actually, it's pronounced Zach. Oh my god!
I see that joke circulate all through TikTok all the time. That is a good one. Yeah, it's just he's easy to be the kind of the character to pick on, and be the punching bag. But he's also a good character too. I'll tell you, the roasting episode where he had the students that were roasting him and he didn't know how to combat it. Guilty. That has happened to me before with some fifth graders. Some badass fifth graders, let me tell you.
Wait, isn't you get roasted? You know how to roast them back?
I was getting roasted, and I do know how to roast back, but sometimes you're just off, Not
just that, but you also like I think my first day teaching, I was gonna roast one of my kids. Like I said, like, we got 10 minutes left in class, you all okay? Let's get to know each other. Let's have a roasting session. And when they started, like the kids were roasting each other, I was like, okay, so y'all are not doing this at a low level. And I was like, at this point, I'm just gonna have to make you cry. And I'm so glad the bell rang because they're like, Mr. Levens, get in on it. And I was like, no, because I'm gonna be like, you stink, you didn't bathe today, all kinds of things. And I was like, that's not roasting at this point.
That's not roasting now. That's being
but they were being that mean to each other. And I was like, I don't think you all understand what I was asking.
Children do not
assignment.
No, you're absolutely right. Children do not know what it means to actually roast for fun. They say some hurtful stuff.
They do, and I'm like,
yeah. And they laugh it off, but it's like, hello, you're talking about their livelihood. Which again, I think
they're 12. They don't really have a life.
Well, I mean, like, their home life, if somebody stinks, then I think Abbott does a good job. I mean, they haven't done too much of it late that I can really think of as far as going into the lives of the children. I know they just did the episode with the one mom.
That was so good.
What is it? She had like
Ava was so good being like, why does it matter?
Why do you care? Like, that was such a good scene.
I don't know. Go ahead.
Go.
I was gonna say I feel so conflicted with the show with one thing, and that's Ava, because it's like, it's just like the sexual harassment stuff is like, for me is just so bad. Like, it's just like, that's not like it's like so fireable, not appropriate at all. And even like in a joking sense, like just
right?
But then
course.
And then the blackmail. But then she has all these golden nuggets of like insight that I'm like, I appreciate it, but it's like I don't want to like you because of all these other things. I don't know. Go ahead, please.
She's definitely one of the villains of Abbott Elementary, and it's funny because villains sometimes are in your community and you have to just grow with them. And other times, like, you can let them go. But I don't know. It's so tough because, sometimes the harassment is too much. And it's always aimed specifically at one person. So, yes, it's too much sometimes. I hate saying this because I am a big proponent of, like, caring for men and men's harassment. I cannot help but bust my gut laughing every time Ava makes an unnecessary comment to Gregory. I bust my gut laughing, and I'm bad, but it's just so funny.
No, it's funny. It's in the again. It is cringe because in a real workplace, no.
Oh, fired.
But
It's like that.
it's
like that
cleverly
meme.
written.
It's like that meme where it's like someone hot does it and it's like, oh, thank you, and then human resources.
The one that immediately comes to mind, I think it was like 2 episodes ago, where Ava was covering
Oh, the sick day.
Janine's class,
Yes.
and Ava's short. My eyes are up here, Mr. Eddie.
Right.
And he's like, I'm sorry, I was expecting.
I'm used to looking down here for Janine. I don't know. I will say I like Ava. Looking at her character, I think she's supposed to represent like a millennial or Gen Z kind of person who just doesn't understand that you're supposed to filter what you say in certain environments. But her approach to work is non-traditional. Like the way that she goes about things is
that's a
absolutely
word.
no way
That's
that I would
definitely a
expect a
descriptor.
principal to behave or anything like that. But she has shown that she cares deep down, just in a different way. Her priorities are skewed, but she does care. Like when she was speaking to the school board, she was able to talk about the fact that yes, she does things differently, but she does care about the kids. She cares about the teachers that she works with. So I just think that her character is supposed to represent that person who's like, very lackadaisical, just used to just going through life and like surviving on her looks and charisma and things like that. And now she's in a situation where that's only going to take her so far. So she's got to adapt and like, change to the situation. So I like her. I think they're probably going kind of heavy on the sexual harassment jokes because it's from a woman to a man as opposed from a man to a woman. So they're probably trying to highlight it. And the jokes are funny. Like I don't want to laugh at them because they do cross the line to like, workplace harassment. But I was like, some of these are really, really freaking funny.
You just got to bring in the
I
separation.
don't know, y'all. I actually don't find them funny. I just
Ooh.
am like, ugh, like
No,
not another one of these jokes. I just don't.
Okay,
And-
I'll say to your point, it is the easy, quick laugh. I think those are kind of very much similar to. I don't want to say Ava is like again, I hate to compare it to The Office. I don't want to say Ava's like a Michael Scott, where it's like borderline incompetency.
She definitely is like Michael Scott.
Okay, problematic,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And then the thing about Michael Scott, and that is different from Ava, is that Michael Scott is truly incompetent. Ava has shown that she is competent. So when they do feed her those jokes, I can understand why someone like Ange, I understand why you wouldn't find it funny, because it's like an actual issue, and they're really playing it up for laughs. And if they're really clever with this writing, this will be a plot that comes back and, Ava can develop from it, which we might be giving them too much credit. And as Nino knows,
absolutely not.
We love writing a better story.
No. I think we're giving them just the right amount of credit because as we've seen, Ava's already going on through her character arc with becoming someone who's worthy to be a principal. For this school. We saw it with her taking over the class for Janine and her enjoying it, her restraining herself, not having to share her ghost face killer story from the 90s. There's a lot of, and I think this is the redeeming quality, is that Ava is an actual character, and it seems that there, even though it's not like, we know that it's not serious, because we find out that Ava is dating Andre Iguodala,
right? He's been dating her for 5 years.
You're right, and she's been dating him for 2. Yeah. So again, it's just, I think that there will be a reckoning of some sort for Ava, but I think maybe as we go through it, we'll see more. But I also think that it's kind of saved by like they also make it known to us that through Gregory's like facial expressions, like, this is not okay. I don't know why you keep saying, and he just does it to the camera. there's something there. I can't quite put it on, but maybe it will develop into something.
I see it, and I really hope it develops because again, we're giving them a lot of credit from what they've given us, rightfully so. So as you said, the right amount of credit. So I really would like to see. Well, I mean, shoot, that can very much collide with Gregory's ambitions to be a principal, which at first I never understood because he was just a substitute, but apparently thought he could apply to be principal.
He would have gotten the job too.
But also, that's not how that. That's not how that.
That is not how it works.
That part was unrealistic. AF.
But he went to like, I think he has like a master's or maybe even a doctorate in like higher education, like leadership.
They alluded to it, right?
Yeah, he went and did some special training or something.
Yeah, but I also think that we can assume that public district is so underfunded that they're just willing to take anybody in these positions. So
could be. And again, that could. I'm gonna save this overarching plot for later. I want to keep going with the characters, but I think that could definitely be a factor into somebody's game. Well, I'll bring it up after we finish through the characters. Let's talk Barbara and Melissa. I think you can lump them together, but they're two very different characters, I feel.
Yes.
You know, they're your veteran teachers. It's very interesting watching the situations they put them in. Because I also find those so realistic. When Barbara had to come off her high horse because she didn't know how the new online programming system worked. That was a great episode for me because I have helped so many teachers just get their shit started. Like, this is the start button right here. Like it's just a good juxtaposition because the veteran teachers are quite knowledgeable. So you do go to them for mentorship and you do seek out advice, and they know the run of the mill. They know how things work. But then again, you as a new teacher or a young teacher are very capable to show them something new. And I really like how they do that with Barbara and Melissa. Probably more Barbara because they really try to pair her up with Janine a lot. And, you know, oftentimes she's very reluctant to help her. And I really like the toilet episode where they were destroying all the toilets because
God, how does the school function?
Listen, I was fortunate enough to not go to one of these schools in Miami-Dade, but I went to a charter school for high school. But there was also, I had a bunch of friends in other places. There was a school called Southwest High School that did not have clean running water for drinking for like years. They would constantly try and get it out, and it would come out yellow with like stuff in it from the water fountains. I can totally believe that Abbot is completely, run down at this point. And that's just from a variety of factors that contributed to it. And I think that's another thing I like about the show is that it does have a message. I think we'll get into it. I think at the end to wrap up about the charter school.
Yeah, it's coming. It's coming. Yep, yeah. It's coming.
But definitely with these older teachers, I like their inclusion because right now I feel like maybe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that teaching is kind of in a little bit of a changing of the guard. Like there's a lot of young teachers that have a bunch of experience with this new technology because they grew up with it, but then there's a lot of older teachers that are being kind of phased out because the technology is rapidly advancing. So it's very interesting to see that they included it in the show with half the main cast being from an older generation and having to impart knowledge on the newer generation.
No, you're right. It is kind of get with it or kind of get going type of scenario. I mean, new programs are probably introduced every single year. Orange County Florida, just started a new whole curriculum. You know, it's very much that. It's very much technology is dominating the profession, and yeah, you gotta get on board. And if not, it's what you find is these conversations among like parent and teachers where it's like, yo, what's going on? And it's like, well, they're not submitting the work, but then on the other half, they don't even know how to find their submitted work. They don't even know the ins and outs of the program that they're teaching on. And then sometimes it's like they don't know how to best adapt their teaching style to these new styles of programming that the students have to receive at this point. So it is a great perspective when you have two characters who represent that. I mean, so, and again, it's not even only about when it comes to like technology. I think Melissa had that really good episode with her teacher aide, and her teacher aide, the teacher aide was like giving them the beat to what was it, Clips? So yeah, it's the original Cup song. But that's styles of learning. That's auditory. That's gosh, I know it's auditory. It's kinesthetic because it's you're doing that movement. But it's like not every child learns the same. So you have to be readily adaptable to fit the learning style of your students. So as you said, there is a message. There's like what's the word? They're trying to say something. They're definitely trying to say something. Which I would hope a lot of teachers actually do watch this. Because it does give really good insight, but also parents too. I mean, it across the board, I think the show is really good just to watch if you're involved in school, I guess, or if you ever been to school, which is god dang near everybody. Am I right? I think everybody can learn something here. But goodness, it also they're the anchors of the show. They're the veteran actors as well. So I think it's a very nice balance. Like Cheryl Lee is definitely the mother hen of the group. Melissa is that crazy aunt with the bat under the desk. So yeah.
I'm thinking about what she said. Just wipe it down for me when you bring it back. I mean, okay, so thinking about like the generational differences between the veteran teachers and like obviously the teachers in like Janine's generation on Abbott. So the episode about them bringing on that new program, I actually did think that Barbara had a great point. Like, she knows how to teach kids how to read. She's been doing it all her career. She doesn't need a new program to come along and show that. And I actually agree. I have been very frustrated myself, even when I was a teacher, about the trainings that we would do on like this new hottest wave that the county wanted us to start implementing, or someone somewhere in a think tank somewhere said, oh, this is what we got to use to help the kids learn. I don't think that instituting like new programs would be the way to go. Like the traditional methods of teaching worked for a long time. I don't think that those need to be completely phased out. Yes, kids now have shorter attention spans. They're used to technology. They're very savvy with it. And the idea of implementing or like, introducing into the classroom and like letting them interact with it, I'm all on board with that. But when it gets to the point where everything now is digital, it's very hands off in other regards. Like, here, grab your ThinkPad, log in, go to eCampus or whatever website a school uses. I think at that point, it starts taking away from the traditional methods of teaching, because it got to the point where I had to start building an entire digital curriculum for the kids at home when we were doing a distance learning and trying to also do traditional teaching in class. And it just got to be too much where I had to blend them together. So I completely understand what Barbara's saying. Like, I don't need technology to teach me how to do my job. I'm good at it. And then like having like, so Melissa has had a lot of low key moments like with the teacher aide. Before that, she had mixed grade levels in one classroom because they were like, oh, you can handle 36 kids. That is quite the ask.
That is
Having
absurd.
more than like 20 kids in a classroom at one time is a challenge.
That's not, the ratio is 1 to 25.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
your class
But
is
but it happens.
and
It
it does,
happens.
but technically, like, well, I don't know every state. I can't speak for Pennsylvania, but I know that for Florida, if your class goes even one student over the cap size, technically they're supposed to pay you more and they're supposed to like provide you support because technically at that point you are now in charge of what would be considered two classrooms. So the fact that they had like 36 kids in her class and they're mixed grade levels at the same time,
Insanity.
not only is that insanity, but that's like just downright torture.
Yeah.
And like they're taking kids from other school to put in her classroom. Like that just like it speaks to the underfunded situation of public schools. And clearly Abbott is in a situation where they need someone to advocate for them and like, put them on a better path to success. And then the episode, which I know you all said we're going to get to it about the charter schools, what a conversation to have.
Oh, yeah.
What a conversation to have because charter schools do bring in some like benefits in that regard, but like it's the drawback as well of what it takes out of the community with having these. I think it gets more to gentrification and things like that, and I'm not a fan of it, but I do understand why people do advocate for it. I did go to a charter school when I was in New Orleans, so I can say that it does have a different experience, but I think it kind of then levels a little bit more blame on a teacher in public school. Like, okay, so why are my kids not having the same experience here? I will just say partially as like one of my final comments, I would love for them to do an episode that talks a little bit more about what's been going on in the past couple of years where parents are wanting more of a say in what is being taught in the classroom. It doesn't have to get super political and talk about critical race theory or anything like that, but I would like a situation, whether it's like, dramatize something simple where parents want more say in what's being taught in the classroom. And like, I don't want my kids to have to read this book. I don't want them to have to do this poem, anything like that. I would love that episode. I would like to see how they would handle it.
That's gotta be in the works.
That honestly does have to be in the works. And I wonder if the character to do it with will probably be what's his name? Lucas?
Jacob.
Is it Jacob? Damn, what the
What'd you call him?
I called him Lucas for some reason.
I thought you said Luffy.
Well,
no.
It might, that would be a layered conversation with Jacob because he'd probably stick or stray away from anything that would have too much of an emphasis on like anything to do with race, or he might lean too far into it with like how he's been depicted so far. He might lean too far into it and go down a rabbit hole, or he might stray away from it because like it'd be a difficult conversation for him to have as a white man talking to
Was a white gay man too.
A white gay man who is dating a black man but speaking to a predominantly black classroom. It would be because I mean he's already hinted at in the show that there are certain things that he's not talked about with his class or things like that. Like he was like, I'm having thoughts about stop and frisk right now when they were looking for the candy. So I don't think he would like enjoy having that conversation with his kids.
That candy episode.
Yeah.
Baby Thanos.
But-
Baby Thanos.
Insanity. I am inedible.
And then the kid, Mr. Johnson, is like, what did it cost you?
Everything. I think one of the benefits of this show is that it does just comedy really well. There are times when it's trying to push a message and trying to think critically about what's going on in schools. And I think there's other episodes where it just has fun. And I think that's what school's all about a little bit. When you're in school, either one day can go from being this very serious topic where the fate of the world is in your hands and blah blah blah, Coney 2012, things like that, and then the very next day,
Flashback.
It's just a regular day. There's nothing to do, and it's just shenanigans. I think that's a good way to have this show be, because it keeps things fresh. It doesn't, and when you're watching the show, it doesn't feel like every episode you're gonna have to, carry something with you, and you're gonna have to like really open your heart up to to think critically on. It just feels like fun.
It doesn't get too heavy, yeah.
Yeah, no. I think it rides that fine line of, hey, and again, I think the best types of comedy are the ones that can get the joke across, but still have a meaning behind it. Like, there are really funny jokes in the show, but it doesn't detract. It never detracts from the actual, say, the plot or the issue that the episode chooses to highlight. Like, they still very much remind you, hey, this is still an issue, but here's another joke for you, a well-written joke that ties into what's been going on in the episode. So again, that's a shout out to Quinta. That's a shout out to all the writers, because that's hard to do. That's definitely not an easy task. As we said earlier, the harassment jokes are very easy to get off. There's no substance behind them. They're the quick laugh. If anything, the most we get from those is just kind of, again, Ava's character, and Gregory's response adds to his character. But yeah, I think the show does a really good job at highlighting the issues, but not so much to where you now feel you need to go out and do something about it. You're aware now, and if anything, you're probably now having conversations, which is probably the most important part. There's one more character, then we can get into kind of the big things that are happening in season 2. Mr. Johnson, as Nino, you said, he's the sleeper character. He was the only recurring cast member to now get the boost to starring cast. Mind you, they didn't really have too many guest stars or whatnot. Mr. Johnson, great character. I wish Ange was still here. Ange once asked me, do I have a character like Mr. Johnson? Is there a custodian staff like Mr. Johnson? I said, we don't have a Mr. Johnson, but we have Mr. Garcia, and he's my dog. Me and Mr. Johnson shoot the shit. Mr. Garcia shoot the shit all the time. Well, we did when I worked with him. And again, just kind of the janitor, the custodian staff. They're very much that role that you see everything, you know everything, and that's not even part of your job. You just happen to know it. But god dang it, he is just funny.
He is. They gave him some of the funniest lines. Like, there was one line when Janine was like talking about, like, okay, the real issue is that my mom never taught me and my sister how to cook. And then he goes, oh, so now we all have sisters now. It was just, I busted out laughing because I had to pause the show and just laugh to myself because he delivered it very well. And then when he came into the class to sub, he was like, I'm the towel, and then he immediately comes in. Has anyone ever flown into the Denver airport?
Right. They told him, do not mention the Denver airport.
The first thing he does. It's very funny. He is well deserved. He is very much the Creed of this show. With
the Creed, yeah, that's a good comparison. The Creed, yeah, or Creed. He's given me a little bit of Ron Swanson, ever so slightly. Definitely Creed though. Creed for sure. He mentioned that thing about with little Mr. Johnson. He's like, that's copyright, young blood.
Yeah, I like Mr. Johnson. He's funny, but he's also very insightful at times.
Yes.
Like when they were trying to, the desking episode again, I think, when they were trying to figure out who's doing it and he's talking to Gregory. I really like the conversation about, like, hey, I haven't been a janitor my whole life. This wasn't what I planned, but life happens. You go more so for the journey as opposed to the destination. And I really like that because there are some people who have questions about, like, if what they're doing right now is what they should be doing, what they're going to be doing 10 years from now. So it's definitely something that, like, listen to your elders, like, ask somebody who's been in that situation, like, am I crazy for thinking this? Should I be thinking about this? Something like that. So I like that they give him his moments where he just gets to drop a pearl of wisdom and he's not just having funny one-liners. I think it's a good mix for his character.
Yeah, I just feel it's a career, whatever you want to call it, career job. It's often overlooked, and very much they are part of the school's community, custodial staff, and they are owed the same amount of respect as a teacher and anybody else on the staff. But very much it takes a village. I have students who I talk to who are not any of my students, and I try to impart wisdom on them. Wisdom can come from anywhere, and I think Mr. Johnson is a perfect character that exemplifies that. And that, again, the school is in itself as a community, and everybody contributes. So if anybody felt the need to neglect one point of that pyramid, then I think it falls apart. So I really like his character for everything we just said. All right, let's get into some of the finer points of season 2, and we'll go ahead and get into the big one. I just want to real quick list off some of the guest stars that have appeared up until this character's appearance. There's Zach Fox as Tariq, Larry Owens as Zach, Jacob's boyfriend. We saw Gritty, the mascot of the Flyers, just to name a few. Sheila Shaw. Now I'm just listing some to give some credit to. Orlando Jones. He played
I forgot he was on.
Yeah, that was him. Yeah. Dare I say, this character comes in, and I think this is a game-changing moment. One I'd like to say, shout out to Kayla Mejia, Ashley, the teacher aide. But this guy comes in, and I think this now solidifies that Abbott is doing things just by the actor alone, who's already kind of now making the jump from Broadway to more movies and more. Again, if you have time to make a TV appearance, that means these people probably want to be here. Leslie Odom Jr. shows up as Draymond Winding, and he is the owner of a charter school, or an organization that promotes charter schools or tries to get the kids in Philly over at the charter schools. And this episode 1, obviously this episode is really plot heavy, and it's definitely gonna factor into the rest of the season for sure. But it's very well done. I love the idea that they let in with the commercial with they're attacking Abbott. Oh my God, that was funny. Like, they just caught videos and they're like, how do they even get the cameras in here?
But Ava's like, I thought it was one of them.
It's very fun, because I think that's the first time, or one of the first times, that they break the fourth wall.
Yes.
With the mockumentary style. It's very refreshing to see that, because then everything gets thrown out the window. I think, because everything from that point is just very funny with that, because they're in Janine's house in her bathroom.
Yes.
When she's about to go poop, I'm like, it's just very funny. They're at the club.
Yes.
It's very funny to think about, and I think it's very tongue in cheek. But the main issue is that the charter school is running an ad, and it's looking bad on Abbott, and there are students transferring out of the school to the charter school conveniently. Right? I find it so funny that the woman who got fired for kicking a child in the face
is at the school.
is at the school and is in the commercial. I find that so funny, and I also find it funny that she when we see her, she's like, oh, I've been kicking myself because of this and that, and then everyone just starts laughing, and she's like, something funny.
I also like, again, and this was kind of the mystery of the episode. It's like, oh yeah, everybody was trashed in that ad, but you, Barbara. And they show Barbara, and it did not click to me at all. Like, I was trying to piece together, why is Barbara not being highlighted in a negative light in this episode? I mean, the ad. And then obviously you saw Leslie Odom. He comes in, he basically lays out his plan. He's trying to make Abbott like obsolete and trying to get the kids to the charter school. And this is a personal vendetta because he went to Abbott. He's an Abbott alum, and he has only had one great experience at Abbott, and that is with Barbara. And it was perfectly done too. Because she's like she doesn't say anything. She leaves it alone. And it's not until the final straw where he comes for everybody's neck, I think, at some point.
Yeah, he's talking trash about them at the school, and she says, "In my classroom."
Draymond, Draymond Winding, you come in here right now.
Name Raymond.
Right.
You got that name in Philly.
What's he said, "Yes, Mrs. Howard."
Right away.
But I think I like it because at the beginning of the season, we heard about the charter school.
We did. Didn't they go? Did they go to it?
Yeah, and then we went to the charter school,
right?
Because they were getting better stuff than Abbott was, and now the charter school system is trying to basically leave Abbott only bones, and take everything from them. I find that really interesting. I like the long form storytelling.
Yes.
Quinta Brunson is showing, and the writer team as well, I have to give credit to them. They're showing their capability of like extending a plot line to, instead of it being 1 or 2 episode special, which a lot of different shows do. They're slowly giving you pieces to unravel. And I think it's for a long form villain, like a true villain, a true antagonist. I think charter schools are the perfect thing to start commenting on. And I think it's also the natural progression of like something that is harming public schools like right now in the real world. So I think that development is there. Now I'm excited to see where it goes. We're at the mid-season, and we've already established who is the issue against Abbott, but now I feel like they're going to take it to the next level, maybe in the second half of the season, maybe fully next season, but the progression is there about that the charter school is a problem, and if they don't do something about it, Abbott might close down.
And yeah, it's interesting when you say, do something about it. That's not necessarily what they need to do about it. It's what they need to do for Abbott, because Abbott is being painted in this terrible light. And it's like, what are they going to do? Who are they going to reach out to? Are they going to go straight to the school board and be like, hey, this other charter school in our district is, poaching our kids? And, when you don't have kids, you don't get funding. That's what it comes down to. So it's like, how are they going to advocate? Who are they going to get on their side? Because, at the end of the day, charter schools, as we said, can be beneficial. There's no doubt about that. Can there be sometimes, what'd you call it? Like an after effect on public schools? Well, yeah, there is. And of course, when you really go to the top of it all, is there someone who's profiteering off of it? For sure. But with that said, there are benefits to it. There is special education. There is, that's really the only thing I got. They can whatchamacallit. What is it? They can what's the word? They can like, they can teach whatever they want. They teach.
Oh, the curriculum's not set by the state or the county. Right.
It is by them. So it's like, if there's something that you need to go do and this school specializes in it, I get it, So as you said, long form storytelling. We've only gotten 2 episodes with a mention of the charter school. I definitely think it's it's an issue that's not necessarily, I think, is going to be resolved in a season, but we're going to get more episodes in the second half for sure. And maybe Leslie's story will be concluded by season 2 by the end of it. But like, obviously the issue of charter versus public schools, that's not ever going to go away, you know.
Yeah, who's Leslie?
Leslie Odom Jr.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think so. I think, but it's good that they're speaking about it, especially with what's going on like in the world. Like, let me just,
No, you
take
go
a
ahead.
minute
You go
to,
ahead.
to take a minute about what's going on. Like, these are real world things. Currently in Missouri, a bunch of schools, public schools, are shutting down because of lack of funding. There is actually, and I heard this from a teacher, like spreading it on TikTok, and then corroborated by other teachers, that there's a bunch of students that are going to the only high school in town, when their district, or not in their district, but like close to them, and that school's shutting down, and they have to be either go to a charter school, go to a private school, or be bused all the way across to another town, just to go to school.
And
Like
then that
these,
becomes an overcrowded issue, on
Yep.
lack of resources.
and they're already addressing the overcrowding issue, because in Abbott, there's a school that shut down, and then a third grade class got mixed with the second grade class. So
Yeah.
it all bleeds into each other, and I think this is where the writing is doing so well, because not only is Abbott living in the
Present.
living in not present, but I think it in a paradox state where they don't want to give them funding, but they also want to throw all the students on them. So they're like, oh, we don't want to give you funding,
And
but here's
then,
100 more students.
and then you also, it goes into the teachers don't get paid enough, and they really don't I mean, Abbott's doing fine. I think they are. I mean, they haven't really talked about the pay. As a teacher looking at Abbott, it's like, they're probably not getting paid enough, especially a teacher from Florida, for sure. But it's like, all these things are going on in a school, and yet it's not necessarily prevalent to the modern audience, the modern world. A lot of people do not know of these issues, and so I think Abbott and Nino, thank you for sharing those quick little stats. The writing, I think the writing is really reflecting what is going on.
And not just that, but so the episode, like we talked about Gregory's growth as a teacher, taking him more seriously, putting in more effort and everything. The episode where he made a chart on his board, because he's like, my students have to master these tasks by this point, and we got to be able to move on, like that. And he's like, this is unrealistic of the county. They wouldn't give us an unrealistic timeline and expect us to get it all done. Yes, the hell they would, and they do it year after year. Like, sometimes you're just not able to fit everything into the schedule. Of course, like Barbara gave the example of like a snow day, a flu breaking out in class. I mean, I again didn't have to deal with that as a middle school teacher, and of course in Florida we don't have snow days, but like hurricane days, and then situations where you just the kids just aren't getting the material. You have to slow down and make sure that they do understand it, because eventually they are going to be tested on it, and it's better that you slow down, go in depth in the material if you need, as opposed to like just doing a glancing lesson on it and then move on and say, okay, we'll come back and cover it all later. So that, I think, is another thing that they worked in. I would like them to talk a little bit more about it, about the pressure that's put on teachers to make sure that you are keeping up with expectations, while also realizing that these expectations are not realistic. So not only do you work in a school that's underfunded, overcrowded, a school that's falling apart so weak that one bathroom can, one toilet will take out an entire floor. That's crazy. It you don't have adequate funding for textbooks and things like that. You might not have the necessary support. Your principal, your admin might not be the most supportive or the best at their jobs, and yet you are still responsible for the education of like however many kids are in your class. It's a lot of pressure that are put on teachers, and I don't think that people have been as understanding as they probably could be for teachers.
I'm not think that they are.
I'm not. I'm going to be very honest. Part of like the whole discourse over the past couple of years about teachers being lazy, like teachers just not wanting to work and things like that. About like why schools should be open versus why like my kids should be learning from home. Part of the reason I decided to stop teaching was partly because of the pay. Versus the stress and the demands of being a teacher. And then also, I don't enjoy having a job where there's a lot of political and public discourse of you telling me how to do my job, but you're not willing to step into the classroom to do my job for me. Like, if you think you're so much better at it, if you have all these grand ideas, come and do it. You deal with your kid every day. You know your kid's a POS. Like, you know that your kid is not the best, and yet and still you think that I'm going to take this POS and turn them into a grade A student by the end of the school year. I can't do that, especially if the parent is unresponsive and not supportive at home as well. That's another thing I wish they would go a little bit more into.
Have you ever thought about this, Catwoman V? Have you ever thought about this? If you don't parent my children, who will?
Exactly. Exactly.
Not
the audacity
me.
of me to not want to have to parent 30 kids. It's
30 times how many periods?
Six class periods.
180 kids. How about that?
It's insanity. And then the thing is, I will say it. The one thing I miss about teaching is interacting with the kids, because you do get to know their personalities, their quirks, their handwriting, what they are dealing with. Like, I could tell instantly if some of my kids were having a good day versus just being themselves. Like, I could tell instantly as soon as they walked in the classroom how they greeted me, whether or not they did the bell work. I could tell. And I would just like, if they're having a bad day or something, I give them a couple minutes, let them chill. And if I notice they're still not getting engaged, just go quietly talk to them or something like that. And I can get the entire story of what's going on and why they feel this way. So I will say I miss that about being a teacher, because teachers do have such an important role in kids' lives, especially if you're a good teacher and your kids like you. If they notice you're putting effort in, they're going to like you. If they notice that you're not and you're like half-assing it, they're not going to respect you. They're not going to really look at you as someone who's an authority figure. You're like their friend, their playmate. So I miss that aspect of it, but I do not miss at all the stress that comes along with it, because you almost feel as though if I don't do my job properly, day in, day out, that you have to be on it 8 hours a day, you're going to like screw up this kid, because eventually you're going to just drop the ball somewhere and it's all going to be on you, because everyone is going to blame you. Parents, admin, other students can be like, well, I didn't learn because my teacher didn't teach me, as opposed to I didn't learn because I didn't want to be engaged in the lesson that day.
I think.
I wonder if Abbott is going to cover that, because that's a real concern from all teachers.
I was gonna say something similar. I think one thing and we can kind of we can start to wrap this up a little bit. The kids are, there hasn't been a kid on the show that I could really like focus in on and hone in on. I believe it's the same kids in every episode. But that's a perspective, that I think that needs to be shared too. Everything that Catwoman V just said is a true, very true feeling for a lot of teachers. And I think it would be good from the show standpoint is really be reflexive and show the reciprocation of, we get a lot from the teachers and the staff in the show. Let's hear from the kids as far as, are their needs being met? Do they feel like their teacher is teaching and living up to that standard? What does it look like when a child doesn't understand what's going on? We've seen bits and pieces, but now I would like them to attach that to a character so they can grow. And again, everything that Abbott has shown is quite reflexive of what's going on in the actual classrooms. Now, whether or not people are going to go out and do something about it is to be determined, but the conversations are starting, And I think the more that people watch this show and, find entertainment in it and recognize the realism, the more change we're probably going to see. And I hope that's what Abbott plans. And again, at the end of the day, they're really just writing a comedy show to write a comedy show, but they've been nailing the message, So I like to think they have an underlying agenda to promote, the goodness that is public schools, the goodness that is, highly effective teachers, highly effective staff, and what can happen when a community comes together to support education.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think a great way for the tie-in, like the student perspective, would be like if they do like a teacher appreciation episode,
Oh yeah.
like when they get to that point of the school year, because that's really when I started realizing, dang, my kids really do love me. Like the ones that I didn't really have the greatest relationship with, like maybe they wouldn't talk to me. Every year for like teacher appreciation, like some of the teachers would make their kids write cards, usually the ELA teachers, so hint hint, would make their
Oh.
kids like write cards, like to your favorite teacher or a teacher who like meant a lot to you, or like has made an impact on you. And then also at the end of the year, like when people are signing yearbooks, like the kids want to leave a message for their teachers as well. I think if they get to that point of the school year in the show, they should probably, that would be a good way to tie it in. Like let the kids do like give their little confessionals and talk about the teachers that left an impact on them, and all the things that you already mentioned about, like are your needs being met? Are your teachers actually teaching? Did your teacher go the extra mile? And did they transcend from just a teacher to a role model, a mentor for you, something like that? Do you see them as a parental figure?
I truly think they're on their way. I again, we've been giving them a lot of credit, and I feel it's right. I believe that is where they're going. And again, hello, this is our application, Quinta. If you're listening, we got you.
I would gladly share some stories.
Oh,
Gladly share stories and scenarios
For a fee, for a studio,
for the
fee,
appropriate
right?
compensation, of course.
oh,
Yes,
oh,
of
I mean, let's
course.
be honest. We don't get. I mean, I don't get paid that much. But hey, teachers, Nino's a writer. He's got his creative writing.
I'm gonna let you take it. I'm
I
enduring.
gladly bring you on.
Yeah, but you could also
Alright.
speak from the perspective
Of a parent.
a parent who's had to deal with like different types of teachers,
Well,
like
I guess you're
teachers who
right.
were engaged, rigid teachers who were not. I remember you used to text and complain about some of the ones who you did not really appreciate. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
No, we got this. We got this. Here, let's wrap it up real quick. The finale, we leave off on a couple of things. Janine is gonna be dating Vince Staples, aka Maurice. That's Gregory's friend. Janine and Gregory had that. I really like this episode too. They had that moment. They were both awkward throughout the whole entire thing, and then they started opening up, dancing with each other a little bit. Not my work enemy with my work husband.
That was
What'd you say? Pour me a low class shot.
so I can spit it out. Put me something cheap so I can spit it out.
See, again, clever writing. But yeah, Gregory went back to the other girl. I mean, he's dating her. Makes sense. But the seeds are there. And again, everything we talked about Abbott, there's more profound stuff that we talked about earlier on in this pod. So it's like I barely care about this romance right now. But it is cute, and they are doing a good job. Long form writing, as Nino said. I think they're doing a good job. They're doing a good job with it.
Yeah.
And again, I think they're doing a good job with Janine and Gregory. They're just both awkward people. So it feels real. Again, everything we've talked about Abbott feels real. Even when Ava says, "Come on, Janine, you're coming with me. We're going to another spot." Ava is not inherently a evil character. She's not a bad. She puts up a front for sure.
Yeah, it is very evident that even though she enjoys picking on Janine, she does care about. I do not think that Ava would have done any of the stuff that she's done over the course of the season and a half, if she didn't truly care. Because if she wanted to be incompetent and just cushy in her position, she didn't have any incentive to change. Her job was solidified.
And I like that. I like that a lot. Again, you don't just pull if you hate someone in a nice car with Andre Iguodala,
Right.
that just doesn't happen. But I think a lot to look forward to in the rest of the season. Let's just close it off. Let's do some final thoughts. Again, season 2, as Nino said, we are seeing more long form storytelling. I enjoy that. Everything they've been showing as far as the ins and outs of a school system and where it works and where it doesn't, I think they're doing very good. And overall, the characters are fun. they're fun to watch. They're fun to watch. Let me get some more kid characters in here, and I'm good to go. Nino, how you gonna close off?
I really enjoy where it's going. I'm excited to see, where it's going to go in the second half. It's a 12 episode second half. So, it's going to be 2 more episodes in the first one. I'm excited to see why they put 10 episodes here and 12 episodes there.
Versus the 11, right?
Yeah. So it's just something to see about. I know we had one kid character that came back for a very small cameo for Shark Tank Week. That was the kid that moved up a grade.
Yes.
Yes.
They do have some. I think that's I have it here. Is that Tasha? Is that Tasha?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right.
So,
Sorry, not Tasha. Trinity.
I know her name begins with a T.
Yeah,
but
I think it's Trinity. Yeah.
So, I'm excited to see where it goes. I don't have any notes right now. It's very good. I'm enjoying it, and it's very rare that I can say those things these days. So,
Catwoman V.
How am I gonna finish up? Like I said, I am enjoying the show so far. I think that they're doing a good job of keeping it realistic with what's going on in the classroom. I really do want them to dive into a few more issues that have been more prominent recently. I understand they probably haven't done it yet. Maybe they're thinking about it. Maybe they don't want to dive too much into it and alienate part of the population, or maybe they're still trying to figure out how to do it without going too far one
Political.
side. Yeah. So there are things that I would like to see done, just because I feel like because it has such a captivated audience, this would be a great platform to start talking about some other issues that are facing that public education is facing, and teachers as a whole.
Well said. Well said. Well, goodness, I think we will be back to probably close out the season of Abbott Elementary come the finale. I think people would love to hear whether or not they succeeded on the fronts that we said they should tackle, succeeded on the ongoing stories that they have set up from season 1 and season 2, and just to clear up our overall enjoyment, which I imagine we will thoroughly enjoy the rest of season 2. As Nino said, 12 more episodes to go. Can't wait, to be honest. I think January 3rd they come back. Tuesday, January 3rd. So yeah, January 3rd, right. But hey, folks, thank you for tuning in to tonight's episode of the Yonko Table. Again, if you ever want to hear more about our discussion on Abbott Elementary, please click the link below and join our Discord. We're talking there every single day. If you want to talk about Abbott, we'll gladly join you. But thank you for following us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Got things popping off on TikTok. Help us get to 10K followers. Dr. Jace cannot join us tonight. One, he does not does not watch Abbott Elementary. He needs to get on that. He watches all those lawyer shows. I call that hypocritical. But he's on Twitch. We're on Twitch, folks. He's got big things on Twitch. I think he's playing Elden Ring. Sorry, apologies. I think that's what he's playing right now. Go follow him. And then thank you again for listening on your various podcast stations, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and thank you for the continued support. But without further ado, I am your host, Grandmaster Hoop, Supernova's Nino Desposado, and Ange. Ange stopped by, so shout out to Ange too, Supernova Ange. And of course, first time Supernova, Catwoman V, hesitant to come on the show, but gave some really good insight on being a teacher. So thank you, Catwoman V. Hope to see you again. All right, but hey, y'all be easy. Oh, real quick, real fun fact: Abbott Elementary, Willard Abbott Elementary, named for Will Smith, Willard, and Quinta Brunson's mother was a teacher.
Mother? No. It's
sorry. Her favorite teacher is Abbott. Sorry.
Wow.
Sorry. Her favorite teacher was Mrs. Abbott.
Coming up with all.
Sorry.
Okay.
No. Thank you for correcting me. Her favorite teacher was Mrs. Abbott. Very cool. All right, y'all be easy.